In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down some of the biggest matchups that I think the UFC can and will put on in the year 2026. I'm fucking stoked to make this video. I have 4 banger matchups. Some of them are just, you'll be blown away by them. You'll be blown away by the first one I'm going to talk about. But before we get into it, boys, the road to 5K has begun. I have a PowerPoint here. We're going to go through it all. The road to 5K has begun. Please subscribe. Please like. Hit the comments. I've been getting great comments lately, and it means the world, boys. So hit it. Let's get it on. And let's get on with the first one. It's going to surprise some people. Quillan Salkid versus Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. Now, I want to keep in mind with some of these matchups. Do I necessarily think the UFC are going to book Quillan Salkid versus Paddy Pimblett next? Let me just adjust that a little bit. No. But I genuinely think this could be a step in the right direction for some of the biggest fights that we can ever make in the UFC. Obviously, Paddy Pimblett is certified name. He's not a certified top contender. He's not a top 5 lightweight in the UFC as it stands right now. That doesn't mean he can't be. Quillan Salkid is a fucking animal. He is a fucking beast. He is the best prospect in the sport at the moment. He's the one I will be keeping my eye on the most moving forward. I will be so hyped to see when this guy fights. There's a few areas here. Grappling. I misspelled grappling. Or we'll move. Grappling exchanges. The grappling exchanges, because I don't know if any of you noticed, when Quillan Salkid fought Jamie Mullarkey, go back and look at that fight. The speed of that takedown was absolutely insane. And listen, Jamie Mullarkey gave a little bit of resilience and stuff like that, but that fight was only going to Salkid. Let's be honest here, that fight was only going one way. And I genuinely believe if these two fought today, I would actually probably pick Salkid to win. I just don't rate Paddy Pimblett. I don't think Pimblett's a top 5. I don't think Pimblett's a top contender. I just don't see it in his skill set to where I'm like, you even beat a Saint Denis? Do you even beat Moicano? Do you beat any of these top guys? I'm struggling to see it, bro. I'm struggling to see it, and it's sad because Justin Gaethje isn't even a top 5 lightweight. Justin Gaethje is probably 6. He doesn't beat Ilya. He sure as fuck don't beat Arman. He doesn't beat Max. He doesn't beat Charles. Benoit Saint Denis probably gives him a few problems when he implements the grappling. Paddy Pimblett's game plan was just so off, so trash against Justin Gaethje. The way Pimblett has fought before, specifically in the Chandler fight, I saw glimpses of it in the Gaethje fight. I saw moments where Paddy was using the range. I saw moments where Pimblett was able to do work on the feet. But overall, I thought Pimblett looked quite poor. I thought that was one of the worst Gaethjes we have ever seen. I thought the way Gaethje was just moving forward, he was on a plate for anyone that had any striking capability. There's no wonder. If that Gaethje had fought Holloway, he would have wrapped them up inside a round. I genuinely believe that. And if that Gaethje fought Ilya, he would have finished them in 30 seconds. The first exchange, I genuinely believe Ilya Topuria, if Justin Gaethje went in there looking like that, he would have finished them in the first exchange. Salkid's speed is something that I honestly cannot stop thinking about that takedown he did against Jamie Mullarkey. He honestly has some of the fastest takedowns I've ever seen. I had to watch it a few times to be like, holy shit, this dude is fucking good. Not only is this dude fucking good, he can bang as well. Like, a lot of people look at him as like a striker, and I think I fell into that trap as well with Salkid. But the ability to mix in the grappling is something very, very special. And before you say, whoa, we learned our lesson, man. Look at Saint Denis. Look at Dustin Poirier, Saint Denis, man. Too great, man. Dustin Poirier would smack the fucking head off of Paddy Pimblett at any stage of his career. Okay? Any stage of his career. Quillan Salkid is already showing way more potential than Paddy Pimblett ever showed in his UFC career. Especially for where they are in their, situations right now as regards rankings and things like that. Quillan Salkid, I would love to see you versus maybe, I think Terrence McKinney's a fun fight, but I feel like you could probably do a little bit better. Where's Drew Dober knocking about these days? I think Drew Dober versus Quillan Salkid's an absolutely sick scrap. Maybe ease him on the top 15. Maybe if you want to rush him into a Beneil Dariush, possibly. But I feel like a Drew Dober is just like a perfect test. Because Drew Dober is like near impossible to finish. And Jamie Mullarkey was like just borderline rankings as well. So let's not forget, Jamie Mullarkey was kind of like borderline rankings. But Bobby Green's there as well, but these are kind of all old names. Jalen Turner would be a fucking sick fucking fight. Quillen Salke versus Jalen Turner would be a sick fight. And for Pimblett, God only knows. Benoit Saint Denis is there. Benoit Saint Denis makes a lot of sense. It's disappointing that Brian Ortega pulled out against Renato Moicano, because I felt like that could have been a sick winner to fight Pimblett, because there's kind of talks about Arman versus BSD. I just think they're talks. That fight won't happen in the next fight anyway. I think we need to see the winner of Holloway versus Max be on the... Arman versus Max would be a sick fight. And I think this would be a sick fight as like a headliner in Liverpool or some shit like that. You know what I mean? Pimblett said, I'm not fighting only in Anfield. You know what I'm saying? I'm not fighting on the London cards. But then he fought in the Manchester card. But it's gonna be so fucking sick to see this fight one day. And this fight will happen, because let's be honest, Pimblett's not going anywhere. Very interesting to see where he lands himself on a pay-per-view, because I definitely feel like he lost draw. Pimblett lost a little bit of star power with that performance against Salkid. It's interesting. It's interesting to see. We're going to see how this plays out, but this would be a sick fight later down the line, if not now. I would love to see the scrap. I would absolutely love to see the scrap. Who wouldn't love to see the scrap? Who wouldn't love to see this fucking scrap? Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira is next, but Max Holloway versus Arman Tsarukyan is one of my most anticipated matchups that could possibly happen before the end of the year. I have a few points there. So Max has never fought a wrestler. If you look at Max Holloway's record, he never really fought a wrestler. He never fought a Chad Mendes on his way up to get the featherweight belt, as an example. The 3 fights he's had at lightweight, this will be his 3rd now, he's fought 2 strikers. And you can look at Frankie Edgar, you can look at Brian Ortega, you can even look at Volk if you wanted to. They're not wrestlers. Their bread and butter is not wrestling. And Max could have... I think Arman is the best wrestler. I think Hamzat and Arman are probably 2 best wrestlers in the UFC at the moment. I think Hamzat's probably the best wrestler in UFC history. I was saying Arman for a while, but I genuinely think Hamzat's the best wrestler of all time. My camera keeps moving up and down. My apologies about that. But Max has never got that wrestler on his record. He's never went through that. He's never went through the wrestlers. Move over a little bit. He's never went through those wrestlers. And I think that's worked for him just fine up until now. Oliveira is going to be a very interesting test. I'm worried because we see a different Charles Oliveira in nearly every single fight. And it always seems to be improving. He always seems to be improving. I rewatched the Mateo Skamrov fight. Few key takeaway points. The first one is Mateo Skamrov was shooting on Oliveira, which is a terrible idea, okay? I know Arman did it, but Arman Tsarukyan is probably a top, like I said, probably 2nd best wrestler in the UFC at the moment. I don't think Mateo Skamrov is a top 2 UFC wrestler, to be quite honest with you. I just don't see it, bro. I just don't see it at the moment. For Holloway, Oliveira's going to be exchanging with him. He's going to be in the pocket. He's going to be striking with Max. I don't think Arman would entertain the striking too much with Holloway if they ever fought. I think Oliveira was stupid when he fought Ilya. I feel like he was walking forward, and I feel like when he found out he couldn't get the takedown and Ilya was extremely good on the ground, that's when he was just kind of marching forward and just kind of was like, right, let's just get in a pocket exchange. And when you're fighting Ilya Topuria, getting in a pocket exchange is one of the worst things that you can do. For Holloway, he was a lot more sharp. He was a lot more careful. He was a lot more at range. And I feel like Max knows what he's getting himself into anytime he fights one of these top guys. As regards, he's going to go in there with a certain game plan. Look at Arnold Allen. Arnold Allen banged on the whole time that Max is going to come forward. He did that his whole career. Max switched it up and played a bit more of a counter-attacking kind of game. For Charles, the thing about Holloway is that people just don't really talk about is, when Holloway hurts you, or when Holloway lands on you, you're cracked. There's 4 or 5 follow-up shots. Okay, we got there in the end. Follow-up shots coming your way. Holloway is not a one-hit wonder. Holloway is one of the best volume punchers in UFC history. Bro. And for Tsarukyan, I think the grappling is so efficient. I think the grappling is so dangerous. I think the grappling is so... He's the best gator roller in UFC. He's probably the best ground and pound artist I think we have ever seen in the UFC. I'm struggling to see someone who's landed such good ground and pound. And what Arman does so well, and he's one of the best in the world at this, is getting in damaging and threatening positions. That's one thing Arman just does so well, is that he gets into positions that he's going to cause serious damage. And he's not looking to lay and pray as regards. He's not looking to just sit on top of you. He's looking to do some serious damage. That's what I like about Arman. A lot of these grapplers go in there and just try to do the least amount of damage as possible. We see Sarukian finishing Dan Hooker, getting in Charles Oliveira's guard and landing some vicious elbows, butchering Joel Alvarez, knocking out Beneil Dariush. He's one of the best. He's one of the best in the world for a reason, and he's one of the best grapplers I have ever seen, especially with the offense. He's got himself in some bad positions in his career. The Charles Oliveira fight comes to mind, where he got in like 2 or 3 bad kind of spots. But it's going to be extremely hard for you to find a UFC fighter that hasn't got at least in one bad spot. You know what I mean? Not even one. So for Arman, I think he's one of the best fighters in the world. I think he's an absolute beast. I think he's a sicko. And I want to see Max's... I want to see Arman striking as well. Does Arman have good striking? Can he exchange in the pocket with Max? Because we've seen Oliveira not rock him, but we've seen Oliveira land some decent shots on him. And the lighter man skill will probably prevail again. I said this before. My prediction of this fight will be based on how Holloway looks against Oliveira. Holloway has looked flawless in his first 2 fights at lightweight. I'm not counting the first Dustin Poirier fight, but if you want to, that's fine. But since his return to lightweight, Holloway has had 2 flawless performances. 50-45 in Dustin Poirier, knocking out and schooling Justin Gaethje. Nobody's doing that. Name me another fighter in UFC history who 50-45'd Dustin Poirier. Now, you can argue with the knockdown in the second round. Maybe Dustin got that round. You can argue, I think it was round number 3, I think. Justin Gaethje was able to get the knockdown on Max. You can argue that as well. That's fine. But Holloway slept him, and Holloway schooled Dustin Poirier. Slept Gaethje, schooled Dustin. That's how it worked. And this would be a sick fight. Very interesting to see how the lighter man skill holds up in that cage, because... fuck me, Holloway's an absolute beast. I love Holloway. He's a G. And I'm just looking forward to seeing Holloway fight. Bro. He's a good dude. And we gonna find out Saturday night. Next up, Jon Jones versus Alex Pereira. Jon Jones losing is the best outcome probably ever. To be honest with you, it's probably the best outcome ever, because no one really likes Jon. So no one likes Jon Jones, okay? So, for me, Jon Jones can never be the GOAT. Jon Jones can never be the GOAT. Simply because I don't want someone who's failing performance-enhancing drugs, tests, being the GOAT of our sport. I can't back someone who's doing all of this shit, not fighting Tom Aspinall, not fighting Chael Sonnen on short notice, getting the only event cancelled in UFC history. 3 performance-enhancing and 1 cocaine drug test. You cannot fail a single performance-enhancing drugs fail test where there's concrete evidence. I know a lot of people say... I used to fall in the trap of... it could have been a tainted supplement. If tainted supplements were so common and it's so easy to pop for tainted supplements, most of the UFC would be popping, okay? A lot of these top guys are popping. Makhachev popped. O'Malley popped. Jones popped. Silva popped. You know what I mean? These are all champions. I'm pretty sure everyone I just named there's a champion. And for Pereira, this fight, I don't know. I don't know if I think this fight's going to happen. I would kind of like to see it, because we all know what Jon Jones' game plan is. We all know Jones ducked Aspinall for an easy fight. That is Alex Pereira. Now, I'm not saying Alex is an easy fight, actually, but I'm saying the path to victory is so clear to fight Alex Pereira compared to a Tom Aspinall. It's insane. Because if you look at Tom Aspinall, he's got heavy hands, he's got good low kicks, he's got grappling. But if you look at Alex Pereira, he's got very good striking, very good movement, good low kicks. He's able to move back and forth. He's able to find range. But he's got a massive weakness, that is grappling. And we all know Pereira is just not that good of a grappler, okay? Has he improved? Yeah, I mean, cool, I guess. You know, he got submitted in like his second ever MMA fight. So if you want to say Pereira's improved, that's fine. But I don't necessarily think Jon Jones' grappling is elite, but I don't think you need to have elite grappling to beat Alex Pereira. I genuinely don't. Like, I think Tom Aspinall will flatline him. Not only from a KO, most likely from a KO, but if he wanted to go in there, submit him and take him down, he could. You know, I think Curtis Blades might be able to land like a meaty takedown on him. Would he win? No. But I feel like Curtis Blades would probably get a singular takedown in the fight. I don't necessarily think Pereira's, you know, grappling's bulletproof. It looked decent in the ankle eye first fight, and then obviously in the second fight he didn't need it. Would have loved to see a Carlos Ulberg fight. Would have loved that. But he probably would have smashed Carlos Ulberg up. He would have smashed Carlos Ulberg up. I want to see Jon Jones lose. And a lot of people might say that's such a hater thing. I don't care. Crashed into a pregnant lady, fled the scene. Beat his wife up so bad his kids had to call the police. I want to see him lose. I want to see Jon Jones lose. Simply because, A, all of that. But B, I don't want Jon Jones as the GOAT of our sport. He can't be the GOAT of our sport. It's a terrible outlook on the sport. It's a terrible outlook on people coming up that are getting into the sport, just that you can cheat, that you can do all these things that you don't need to, and there's going to be no consequences. You'll still be redeemed as the GOAT. You'll still be called the GOAT of the sport, even if you do performance-enhancing drugs fail tests. If LeBron James failed 3 drugs tests, he wouldn't be the GOAT. Why is MMA the only sport in the world where if you fail drugs tests, people just don't really give a shit? They don't give a shit, bro. They honestly couldn't give less of a fuck. And Jon Jones was no exception. Jon Jones, just nobody seemed to care that Jon Jones had failed all of these drug tests. Only very certain hardcores understand it's terrible luck to have a PAD user at the top of the sport. First of all, never mind just being the GOAT, period. We can't have Jon Jones as the GOAT. We can't have Jon Jones as the GOAT. Simple as that. And very interesting to see the White House card. I would love to see this at the White House. If it's going to happen, it's going to be at the White House. That's the thing. If it's going to happen, it's going to be at the White House. I'm very interested to see if Jon Jones comes back. It won't be for Tom Aspinall. Tom's going to have to fight Gan. He's going to win. And Pereira's only got a few more fights left in him. You know, Pereira's only got a few more fights left in him. And it's sad because I love Pereira. I really like Pereira. And I think he's so good for the sport. He's gave us so many moments. He's come so far from the Adesanya trilogy. And just being the guy that beat Israel Adesanya. So, yeah, what do we think about this one? The last fight. Ian Cucado Gary versus Islam Makhachev. So, as we can see, Ian makes Islam look human is going to be the biggest talking point coming out of that fight. Oh, he made Islam look human. Nobody's throwing leg kicks like that. You could have gave me that third round. That's the kind of shit that Ian Gary is going to be spewing to the audience when he loses Islam Makhachev. The Cope session is going to be absolutely insane. It's going to have to be studied. They're going to talk about this in fucking history textbooks later down the line. He's just going to pick at any little bit. I stuffed that takedown in the first. I could have taken that. He was a little bit sharper, but I got the low kicks. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit more McGregor action, but I can't talk like this. That was a terrible attempt. But Ian Gary has the fucking worst accent I've ever heard. Take it from someone who's from Ireland. Take it from someone who's watched Ian Gary since Cage Warriors. We don't like Ian Gary. We don't actually like that Ian Gary represents Ireland in the biggest stage. Because he represents fucking Brazil. He represents so many different places. And the guy is just weird. The guy is a fucking weirdo. The guy is strange. The guy is an absolute idiot. He's a great fighter. And he's come leaps and bounds since he first came in the UFC when he fought Jordan Williams. He has come so far. And he's a great fighter. But I just can't back him outside of the cage. As soon as the cage door closes, I love Ian Gary. I don't love his fight style, but the fact there's an Irish guy one fight away from a UFC world title is insane. It's insane. But Makhachev's going to be too big. Islam Makhachev cements GOAT status with a win over Ian Gary. He already has it. Destroying Jack Della Maddalena like that. That's all you need to see. And Ian loses again. I root for Ian the second he gets in that cage, but the second that cage door closes, And the second that cage door closes and the fight's over, that's when I just don't fuck with Ian Gary. I'm sorry. I know I'm Irish. I know we should be back in our own, but the dude is just unbearable. The dude is just so unbearable. He's so annoying. He's so fucking annoying, bro. And I was in Qatar when he fought Islam Makhachev. And as much as I think Ian Gary's talented, and as much as I think Ian Gary can go very far in the sport, I don't necessarily think Ian Gary's any sort of a star. If anything, he has the Mayweather effect of people wanting to see him lose. Nobody's tuning in because they like Ian Gary. I'm sorry. I'm Irish. I root for Paul Hughes. I root for Ken Loughlin. I'm going to root for Paddy McCurry when he fights in the Cage Warriors card in a few weeks. I'm going to back all these boys. I backed Lee Hammond when he was fucking on The Ultimate Fighter. I'm going to back all these amateurs that I've trained with before. It's just how I am. But I will just not back someone who I think is a shit person simply because they're Irish. I will not do it. Will I root against them? No. But I won't get behind them. I don't care if you're Irish. Bro, you have to be a decent human being. And I know people that train that as Old Jim and KF, not someone I want to associate with. And I'm not going to support you. I'm sorry. And like I said, when the cage door is closed, Ian Gary's a G. Because he's Irish. But outside of that, I'm not going to promote Ian Gary. I'm not going to sit here and wear an Ian Gary t-shirt. I'm not going to say Ian Gary's a good dude or he's not. It's sick having an Irish person in the UFC. But when you're half representing the country, when you're representing Brazil as well as Ireland, that's where I'm just like, I'm a bit bored of you. I'm a bit bored of your ass. I'm a bit bored of the fact you won't even stand in one spot, which is Ireland. Why do you feel the need to represent Brazil as well? You're not Brazilian, bro. You fucking trained there. Because you got kicked out of every other fucking gym in the world. You got kicked out of America. You got kicked out of Leon's gym in England. You got kicked out of KF in Ireland. I know people that train at that gym. I know what happened. You head kicking KO and your sparring partners. You were just looking for a way out. And I remember I saw this quote once from Ian Gary. It was like, America's so much better. Thank fuck I got out of Ireland. I was just like, what the fuck? Like, your whole career started here. Yes, international waters could be a better, ground for MMA training. I'm not denying that. But the dude is just a fucking cook as well, bro. Let's not forget that Ian Gary is just a cook. So there's a few honourable mentions. This is the last kind of one I have PowerPointed. But Gaethje Ilya is up there. Ilya just fighting again, to be honest with you. Joshua Van versus Pantoja is another sick fight that I'd look forward to. But as regards this, yeah, it's insane. It's insane. I'd love to see this fight. I think we have a good selection. Let me know what ones you are most hyped if any of these were booked. I think Paddy versus I don't know actually. Max versus Arma is a good one. I think Paddy versus Salka could be a sick fight. I think that could be a sick fight. Max versus Arman is a certified guaranteed banger. Certified and guaranteed banger. Jones versus Pereira, it's a banger. And then this would be an absolute banger. But let me know what you think about this down below, boys. Did I get this one right? What am I missing? And thanks for watching.